Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about approaching what you do in the gym with confidence and why I don't recommend that people miss lifts and why I tell people not to fail lifts. Now, we could argue reasonably that missed lifts in the gym impedes recovery, right? We have that element of things to think about. When you start looking even at hypertrophy training, we know based upon all the data collected over the years that stopping one rep short of failure produces just as much muscle growth as reaching actual muscle failure does. So much for the HIIT guys, they were wrong. And in fact, people who do these extended sets, what do we know? That if they had just not done the extended set and added another set with the same weight, 3 minutes later, it produces better muscle growth as long as they're not exceeding their maximum recoverable volume. So in other words, work, not failure, is what produces hypertrophy. Well, hypertrophy is directly related to strength. And when it comes to lifting, your confidence is important. Your confidence is important. So what ends up happening when you start missing lifts, you don't get the same training effect, and it impacts your ability. It affects your nervous system, actually. It affects your peripheral nervous system in such a way that it can't fire as hard coming up shortly, right? So it's going to affect you with a few future sets. It's going to affect the rest of your workouts. It could even affect your next training session. And if you want to see an exercise that this is more true on than anything else, it's the deadlift. Right? So it's one thing I tell people, don't do max deadlifts. Submaximal pulls are absolutely the way to go. Now, I understand that there are times when you need to know what your max is, and I understand when you're doing a powerlifting meet or a strength lifting meet, you need to hit a max. But you can train a ton of singles, even as low as 80%. Right? You can train singles at 80%, lots of them in the gym, and build your deadlift strength. And other exercises will build your deadlift strength as well. So the point I come to here is that things like the deadlift, which have an enormous impact on your recovery and an enormous impact on your peripheral nervous system, failing that lift or even doing a set 2 failure, going to do a rep that you can't lock, you damn well better lock it. Like you guys have seen me, that one I put up of me, and I've redone it a couple times of me doing that 5 rep set with 515 beltless. I had to grind a little bit on that 5th one, but you don't turn loose. Do not turn loose on that deadlift. Do not miss the rep. Because it comes down to the point of the effect on your nervous system and then the effect on your confidence. Because if you lose confidence in your ability to lift a weight, or you lose confidence in your training, and that's part of what happens with your nervous system, I think that part of the psychological response we get from a failed lift is a reduction in confidence, and I think that's nervous system related, and I think it's your body doing it to protect you from hurting yourself. In other words, your body knows and your brain knows that you got beat up by that exercise, and missing a lift actually does have the potential for injury. Why? Because you're fatigued and form breaks down. Form breakdown when you're not fatigued actually generally doesn't cause injuries unless it's specific types of form breakdown. Most just form breakdown doesn't actually injure people, believe it or not, if they're not fatigued when they do it. It's that large amounts of fatigue, usually combined with getting close to overuse injuries. When you're very close to an overuse injury because you've been pushing pretty hard, meaning you're not real close, but you're in the potential range of it because of inflammation on connective tissue and things like that. When you're slightly more subject to it, that's when form break down due to missing lifts or grinding too hard or just shitty form. That's when you get hurt. It's not when you're fresh. Just using bad form by itself doesn't automatically hurt people. It's that combination of fatigue. And in fact, if fatigue mounts high enough, even perfect form can still snap things. So again, fatigue management's important, but we come down to the point of failed lifts and fatigue management. When you start failing lifts, it's fatiguing. It's stressing. It stresses you psychologically. And I think that's stuff that you have guys like Dr. Mike Israetel have talked about a lot lately, is that the fatigue that we generate that we have to recover from isn't entirely muscular. Right? There's a psychological fatigue, a nervous system fatigue associated with things. And if you find something really stressful, or you find a particular lift to be extremely painful, or you have a lift that you have to psych yourself up extremely hard to do it, that carries an additional set of fatigue, right? And even Matt Perryman looked at that, of his research was showing, when if you guys look at his book Squat Every Day, that generally the more you psych yourself up, even to lift the exact same weight for the exact same reps, the more it seems to impact your recovery. It creates its own stress and its own fatigue that you have to recover from. When we start missing lifts, it creates stress. We start reducing our confidence. And when your confidence is reduced, when you're approaching weights in the gym and you're having to psych yourself up more when you go to attempt that lift again later, what happens? It affects your recovery. Well, if it affects your recovery, you're not going to be able to train as hard as often as you'd like. You're going to get less training stimulus. So fatigue, whether it's mental fatigue, physical fatigue, any of those things, it's going to affect things like overtraining, overreaching. It's going to affect adaptation to training. And that's why I tell people, you need to hit every lift that you try to do. Don't train to failure. Stop a rep short of failure. If you need more work because you're like, oh, I need that next rep, well, that means you need more work. You need to do more sets. You need to do another set if you feel that you need to program more work, not go for a rep that you can't get. Or you need to do more accessory work, more volume work, right? I would rather see guys than try to push out and grind out an overhead press that they can't do. I would rather them throw some laterals or face pulls in, or some tricep work. I mean, I hate to have to say that because I'm not a huge fan of people doing large amounts of small movements, but they have their place. I would rather see you do that than go in and try to grind out an overhead press set to failure and miss a rep, because it's going to reduce your confidence. It's going to increase stress. It's going to make it harder for you to train in the future. And again, it sets in the psychological effect of failing. You don't want to train yourself to fail. We want to be successful. We want to be confident. And hell, that's what I'll tell you. Even you guys who are out there lifting because you think it's going to help you get girls. It's the confidence that gets you girls. It's not the physique you're building. That matters very, very little. When lifting helps guys get girls, it's because of the confidence they gain from the way their physique looks. Let that sink in. Right? It's the confidence you gain. Well, you need to be able to approach your training with confidence. If you want to be a more confident person, you need to approach your training with confidence. You need to be able to walk in and crush your training every time you go to the gym. And when you start missing lifts, you're no longer crushing your training. When you start attempting reps that you can't do, you're no longer crushing your training. That's why certain things are beneficial and help you psychological. Like you'll see guys say, well, like the whole topic has come up in my Strap on Destiny video the other day of static holds or even heavy walkouts. Yeah, those things can help you psychologically. People say, well, it's to train the nervous system. Yes, because it's psychological. It's not training your nervous system per se, like you're thinking. It's boosting your confidence because let's say your max squat is 400 and you walk out 440 or 450 just to see what it feels like on your back. You're not actually trying to lift it because that impedes your recovery big time. That'll destroy your recovery. Heavy partials destroy your recovery more than normal exercises do. But just knowing what it feels like on your back can make you feel more confident with that heavy weight. And if you are confident when you go to attempt a new lift, it doesn't even have to be a 1 rep max. It can be a 3 rep max, it can be a 5 rep set. If you feel more confident handling that weight, then what happens? You're going to be successful. You're going to be successful because you're coming in, you're going to set up better. It's psychological programming. All of this stuff is. The more confident that you are that you know you can handle the weight and the sets and the lifting that you're going to do, usually you're going to reinforce that in the way you train. You're going to use good form. You're probably going to have better neuromuscular efficiency, all of those things. When you've trained your body to say, hey, this exercise beats me up, you are also subconsciously telling yourself, hey, this exercise is hard. It's going to hurt. I'm going to miss this lift. I'm going to fail at some point in this set. And invariably you do. And it might even be purely due to you having psyched yourself up subconsciously to tell yourself You might miss this, or you're going to miss a rep near the end and your form might break down early. Or you might have a neuromuscular efficiency issue where your brain just doesn't recruit as many muscle fibers because you've already programmed yourself to fail. And we don't want to do that. We want to program ourselves for success. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.